Good evening. This is All India Radio and I am VC Pramod and with me is Prashant Kumar Sinha with the evening news. The headlines. Nationwide lockdown extended till 31st of May. Home Ministry issues fresh guidelines to contain the spread of COVID-19. Air and metro rail services to remain suspended. Interstate movement of vehicles allowed on mutual consent basis by the states. All educational institutions, religious places, shopping malls, hotels and cinema halls to remain closed. Red, green and orange zones to be decided by respective states and union territories. Only essential activities allowed in containment zones. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces fifth and final tranche of Atmanirbhar Bharat package, outlines reforms in 7 areas. COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 37.5%, doubling time of cases slows down to 13.6 in the last 3 days. Cyclonic storm Amphan over Bay of Bengal intensifies into severe cyclonic storm. 4 districts of Odisha put on high alert. The nationwide lockdown has been extended till the 31st of this month to contain the spread of COVID-19. National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA) has asked all the ministries and departments of Government of India, state governments and state authorities to continue the lockdown measures in the country. The third phase of the lockdown will end at midnight tonight, after which the fourth phase of nationwide lockdown will commence from tomorrow. National Executive Committee under the Union Home Ministry has released a detailed guideline to be followed in the fourth phase. The guidelines issued by the ministry specify the national directives for COVID-19 management, which will apply to public places and workplaces. All domestic and international air travel of passengers except for domestic medical services, domestic air ambulance and for security purposes or purposes as permitted by the Home Ministry will remain prohibited even in the fourth phase of lockdown. Apart from this, railway and metro services will also remain suspended. Schools, colleges, educational training and coaching institutions will remain closed. Online distance learning shall continue to be permitted and shall be encouraged. Hotels, restaurants and other hospitality services will also remain closed as earlier. However, hospitality services meant for health or government officials, healthcare workers, stranded persons including tourists and for quarantine facilities are allowed to remain open. Restaurants shall be permitted to operate kitchens only for home delivery of food items. All cinema halls, shopping malls, gymnasiums, swimming pools, entertainment parks, cinema halls, bars and auditoriums, assembly halls and similar places will remain closed. Sports complexes and stadiums will be permitted to open. However, spectators will not be allowed. All social, political, sports, entertainment, academic, cultural, religious functions and other type of gatherings and large congregations remain to be prohibited. All religious places, places of worship shall be closed for public. Religious congregations are strictly prohibited. Interstate movement of passenger vehicles and buses with mutual consent of the states involved will be permitted in the fourth phase of nationwide lockdown. However, intrastate movement of passenger vehicles and buses would be allowed as decided by the respective state or union territory government. Standard operating procedures for movement of persons is to be strictly followed. National directives for COVID-19 management shall be followed throughout the country. The delineation of red, green and orange zones will be decided by the respective state governments and union territories after taking into consideration the parameters shared by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. No relaxation has been extended to the containment zones. Movement of individuals except for essential activities has been strictly prohibited between 7 in the evening till 7 in the morning. Government has also advised that people above 65 years of age and those with comorbidities, pregnant women and children below the age of 10 years shall stay at home. With a view to ensuring safety in offices and workplaces, employees on best effort basis should ensure that Arogya Setu app is installed by all employees in their phones. All states and union territories have been asked to ensure seamless interstate and intrastate movement of medical professionals, nurses and paramedical staff, sanitation, personnel and ambulances. Interstate movement of all types of goods and cargo, including empty trucks, remains allowed. Under these guidelines issued by the Home Ministry, wearing of face covers is compulsory, spitting will be punishable with fine, and social distancing is to be followed by all persons in public places and in transport. A report.
Marriage-related gatherings shall not have more than 50 guests. For funerals and last rites, the maximum number of persons allowed has been kept at 20. Consumption of liquor, pan, gutkha and tobacco is not allowed in public places. The practice of work from home should be followed to the extent possible, and staggering of work hours should be adopted. There should be provision for thermal scanning, hand wash and sanitizers at all entry and exit points in common areas. In workplaces, social distancing should be ensured through measures like adequate distance between workers and adequate gaps between shifts. Suparna Saikia, AIR News, Delhi.
Speaking exclusively to AIR News, Niti Aayog member and renowned public health expert Dr. V.K. Paul said that more responsibility now lies with the people of this country to contain the spread of novel coronavirus with the further easing in lockdown provisions. He added that people should strictly follow the national directives to ensure prevention.
Essentially, be disciplined, follow the guidelines strictly because there is restrictions are being gradually being reduced, but then that brings in the responsibility for all of us. Number one, not to cross these restrictions, and secondly, even when we are using activities which have been now allowed, we must maintain the physical distance, we must wear masks, we must make sure that we wash our hands.
Speaking exclusively to AIR News, Niti Aayog CEO Mr. Amitabh Kant said the economy should be allowed to revive in the fourth phase of the lockdown. He, however, maintained that all measures to prevent further spread of COVID-19 should be ensured.
Biggest stimulus will be to open up the economy and allow economic activities to go ahead. This battle has to be fought over a long period of time. 68% of our cases are vested in 18 districts. We need to follow a very hyper-local strategy and ensure that in these districts we are able to do close contact testing, as well as ensure that we are able to focus very, very strongly on the local area.
Former DRDO Director General V.K. Saraswat, speaking to AIR News, said that economic activities should be allowed in the fourth phase of the lockdown.
लॉकडाउन 4.0 होगा, उसमें हमें इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी को आगे बढ़ाना है और इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी बढ़ाने के लिए देश के लोगों को एक अनुशासन के साथ अपना कार्य करने की आदत डालनी होगी और जो अनावश्यक एक्टिविटीज हैं उनको इस समय हमें बढ़ावा नहीं देना चाहिए. केवल वही एक्टिविटीज को आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए जो आवश्यक हैं और जिससे जो है देश की इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन का सुधार होगा.
Delhi Chief Minister Mr. Arvind Kejriwal today said the centre's guidelines are largely in line with the proposal sent by the Delhi government based on suggestions of lakhs of Delhiites. In a tweet, Mr. Kejriwal said the lockdown period has been used to prepare the healthcare system if corona cases increase, but it is now time to relax the restrictions to some extent. He added that the Delhi government will prepare the detailed plan for Delhi based on the centre's guidelines and announce it tomorrow.
In Maharashtra, Lockdown 4 will come into force from tomorrow and will remain valid till May 31st. The state government said the calibrated phase-wise relaxation lifting of lockdown orders will be notified in due course. On the other hand, the Mumbai civic body has said that it is not in favor of taking over the premises of the Wankhede Stadium for quarantine facility, as open grounds will not be useful for the purpose during the upcoming monsoon. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
Maharashtra Industries Minister Subhash Desai today said the economic package announced by Centre will give immense respite to service and manufacturing sectors. Similarly, he said it will usher in opportunities in tourism and transport sectors. As a reason, he said each and every individual should take benefit of the package. He said the golden triangle of Mumbai, Pune and Nasik, which has seen huge investment, has been badly affected due to the pandemic. Hence, the investors should explore options in other districts of the state. Meanwhile, Mumbai Civic Body Chief Iqbal Singh Chahal said the municipal corporation was looking at converting many multi-storied parking lots across the city into facilities for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. He said 50,000 beds can be put up in the sprawling parking lots belonging to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport. Kunal Shinde, AIR News, Mumbai.
Kerala faces a third wave of COVID-19 infection as cases rise with more returnees turning positive. A report.
14 new COVID-19 cases are confirmed in Kerala today, out of which 2 people returned from abroad, 7 from Tamil Nadu and 2 from Maharashtra. The total active cases rises to 101. This is the highest figure since May first week after Kerala effectively flattened the COVID-19 curve in the first and second wave of infection, bringing down the active cases to 16 and reporting a recovery rate of over 93%. More than 60,000 people had returned to Kerala since May first week from abroad and other parts of the country. The number of people under observation also rose to over 62,000 in the state. Meanwhile, 7 flights carrying expatriates from Middle East are arriving today in Kerala as part of Vande Bharat mission. Flight from Muscat had arrived in Thiruvananthapuram and flight from Dubai too arrived in Kochi. 5 more flights are scheduled to arrive in Kochi, Kannur and Kozhikode airports today late night. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
In Tamil Nadu, the statewide lockdown has been extended till May 31st. However, in the districts where the prevalence of the infection is less, several relaxations from the lockdown conditions have been announced. Meanwhile, 639 people have been tested COVID-19 positive today, leading to a surge in the total infected people in the state to 11,224. 634 patients were discharged after cure, while 4 others died of the disease, taking the death toll to 78. More from our correspondent.
The extension of the lockdown in districts like Chennai, which falls under the red zone, is complete, with no relaxations. However, in other districts where the case load is less, a raft of relaxations have been announced. Educational institutions, places of worship, entertainment centers, bars and tourist places will continue to be shut down throughout the state. Political, social and cultural events will remain banned. Regular flights, train and bus services would not be operated till the month end, except the special services for purposes like evacuation and repatriation of stranded passengers or guest laborers. Intra-district travelling in 25 districts with low prevalence of COVID-19 is permitted without vehicle pass from the authorities. There, the bigger factories or offices are allowed to employ up to 50% of their regular strength. Jai Singh, AR News, Chennai.
You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Nationwide lockdown extended till the 31st of May. Home Ministry issues fresh guidelines to contain the spread of COVID-19. Air and metro rail services to remain suspended. Interstate movement of vehicles allowed on mutual consent basis by the states. All educational institutions, religious places, shopping malls, hotels and cinema halls to remain closed. Red, green and orange zones to be decided by respective states and union territories. Only essential activities allowed in containment zones. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces 5th and final tranche of Atmanirbhar Bharat package, outlines reforms in 7 areas. COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 37.5%. Doubling time of cases slows down to 13.6 in past 3 days. Cyclonic storm Amphan over Bay of Bengal intensifies into severe cyclonic storm. 4 districts of Odisha put on a high alert. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman unveiled the final tranche of financial stimulus and policy measures for various sectors to help build a self-reliant India under the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had on Tuesday in his address to the nation announced a special economic package equivalent to 10% of India's GDP, amounting to 20 lakh crore rupees. Addressing a media briefing in New Delhi, the Finance Minister, in an announcement of the 5th tranche of measures to address the economic situation in the country amid COVID-19, outlined structural reforms with focus on 7 areas of Manrega, health and education, business during COVID, decriminalization of Company Act, ease of doing business, policy related to public sector units, state government and resources related to it. Announcing the relief measure of the 5th tranche, Nirmala Sitharaman said under the Manrega scheme, an additional 40,000 crore rupees will be allocated for employment generation in the rural parts of the country. She said this will help to generate nearly 300 crore person days to provide relief to the migrant workers.
Government will now allocate an additional 40,000 crores. This way will ensure that during the monsoon season, and since many of them have gone back to their villages, and if they enroll, they will get the jobs. So 40,000 crore of this is additionally given over and above the BE.
In another major announcement, Ms. Sitharaman said that policy aimed at allowing private players in all sectors was the need of the hour, and the government will chalk out a coherent policy for the same. She asserted that at least one public sector enterprise, PSE, would continue to remain in every strategic sector even after allowing private companies. Finance Minister added that the maximum number of enterprises in strategic sectors will be limited to 4. She informed the government will soon notify the list of strategic sectors requiring the presence of PSEs.
So the Government of India will announce a new policy which will broadly categorize strategic sectors and the others. And the strategic sectors in which the public sector enterprises will be present will be notified. At least one public sector enterprise will be present in those sectors which get notified. Not more than 4 public sector enterprises will be there in that strategic sector notified for the presence of public sector enterprises.
On the support extended to the state government, Finance Minister said more than 46,000 crore rupees have been devolved in April, and revenue deficit grants of more than 12,000 crores in April and May have also been given to the states despite centre's stressful resources. Ms. Sitharaman highlighted the government's decision to increase the net borrowing ceiling for the states from 3% to 5% of the gross state domestic product, which would result in increased resources of 4,28,000 crore rupees for them.
States have a net borrowing ceiling which is about 6.41 lakh crores based on a 3% of GSDP. 75% of was authorized already by us. You can go ahead borrowing that 3% amount. But I'm just stating a matter of fact position that states have so far borrowed only 14% of the limit which is authorized to them. 86% of the authorized borrowing limits remain unutilized as of now. It is now 3% of your state's GSDP. We have now agreed to increase this to 5%.
The Finance Minister said more than 11,000 crore rupees have been released to the states as advance on the State Disaster Relief Fund in the first week of April, and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released another 4,113 crore rupees for direct anti-COVID activities. On the health reforms and initiatives taken to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, she said public expenditure will be increased and health and wellness centers in rural and urban areas will be ramped up. In a major relief to the MSMEs, Finance Minister announced a substantial hike in the minimum threshold to initiate insolvency proceedings. The threshold, which was earlier 1 lakh rupees, has now been increased to 1 crore rupees, which will insulate a large number of MSMEs in the country from insolvency proceedings against them. She also announced special insolvency resolution framework for MSMEs, which will be notified soon. Ms. Sitharaman also informed that no fresh insolvency proceedings will be initiated up to the next 1 year, and COVID-19 related debts will not be considered as default payments for proceedings under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The Finance Minister said PM E-Vidya program for multi-mode access to digital online education will be launched shortly, which will consist of e-content and QR-coded textbooks for all grades. She said 1 TV channel per class from 1 to 12 will be operated, and extensive use of radio and community radio will be encouraged. Speaking over Decriminalization of Companies Act, she said violation involving minor technical and procedural default will not be accounted, which in turn will help to declog the criminal courts and NLCT.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said measures and reforms announced by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today will have a transformative impact on the country's health and education sectors. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said they will boost entrepreneurship, help public sector units, and revitalize the village economy. Home Minister Amit Shah has said the announcements by Narendra Modi government today will go a long way in realizing the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises MSME Minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari has said that the relief package announced by the Finance Minister for different sectors and the new definition of MSMEs will give a huge boost to industry. Information and Broadcasting Minister Mr. Prakash Javadekar has termed the 20 lakh crore rupees package announced by the government as historic. Speaking exclusively to AIR News, Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant termed the financial stimulus and reforms under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan as path-breaking.
No, these are very major and key reforms. These are structural reforms which were pending for over 3 to 4 decades. I've been in the government long enough to know that there was no political will to carry out these reforms till now. The government has demonstrated both its administrative and political will, and this will put India into a long trajectory growth rate. This crisis has been an opportunity, and this crisis has been very well utilized by the government to usher in reforms.
Former Director General DRDO and Niti Aayog member V.K. Saraswat, speaking exclusively to AIR News, said systemic measures introduced by the government will bring long-lasting changes.
सरकार ने ऑलरेडी जिनको देना था 500 रुपए महीना 3 महीने उसको अभी आगे बढ़ा दिया है, तो जिनको डायरेक्ट पैसा देना था उसकी व्यवस्था तो ऑलरेडी की गई है। अब जो एमएसएमईज हैं या जो वर्कर्स हैं जो जा रहे हैं, उनको जो है ये व्यवस्था है कि मनरेगा में जाकर काम करें तो उन्हें पैसा मिल जाएगा। डायरेक्ट ट्रांसफर करने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर हम काम करेंगे तो पैसा मिल जाएगा।
Industry body FICCI, ASSOCHAM and CII have welcomed the 5th tranche of the Atmanirbhar Bharat economic package. ASSOCHAM Secretary General Mr. Deepak Sood said the announcement on the public sector policy, clearly spelling out the role of the government-owned companies within a broad framework of strategic sectors, would help both the private sector as well as the state firms.
With the closure of the 5th tranche announcement, I think it's a good detailing of the full impetus stimulus package of 20 lakh crores announced by the Prime Minister. This is taken care of various sectors, incentivizing the states, making finances available to them. Education sector has been taken care of. Health infrastructure, making us ready for the future should there be any concerns with pandemics like this.
Director General CII Chandrajit Banerjee said the Finance Minister has rightly targeted state-level reforms, which is really the need of the hour.
Honorable Finance Minister has also strategically targeted the package for the poor, and this is very, very important, building health and education capabilities and also unleashing tremendous power of industry to contribute to employment as well as for national development. The reforms in the MSME sector, the agriculture sector, the power sector are indeed very, very transformational.
In a statement, FICCI said that the extra room given to state governments for market borrowings will help them discharge their responsibilities effectively in this difficult phase and was one of the most striking features.
Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba will hold a meeting with Chief Secretaries and DGPs of states and union territories through video conferencing at 9 p.m. today. Mr. Gauba will be discussing state-specific issues related to COVID-19 and decision regarding activities to be allowed in various zones in the 4th phase of lockdown is also likely to take place. The recovery rate of COVID-19 patients has improved to 37.5% in the country. The doubling time in the past 14 days was 11.5, which has improved to 13.6 in the last 3 days. The fatality rate has also fallen to 3.1%. This was stated by Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan. He said the policy perseverance coupled with aggressive and early measures through a strong leadership have shown encouraging results in containing COVID-19. A total of 90,927 cases of COVID-19 have been reported from the country so far, in which 34,109 persons have been cured and 2,872 deaths have occurred. In the last 24 hours, 4,987 new confirmed cases have been added. Dr. Harshvardhan highlighted that the testing capacity has increased in the country to 1 lakh tests per day through 373 government laboratories and 152 private laboratories.
In our series Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you views of leading medical experts on COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, Dr. Uma Kumar, head of Rheumatology Department, AIIMS, suggested to people to follow social distancing, hand hygiene and cough etiquettes.
वायरस का क्योंकि कोई ट्रीटमेंट अवेलेबल नहीं है, इसलिए जो बिहेवियरल थेरेपी है लाइक हैंड हाइजीन, हाथों का बार बार धोना सोप वाटर से 20 सेकंड तक, या फिर हैंड सैनिटाइजर यूज करना, सोशल या फिजिकल डिस्टेंसिंग मेंटेन करना, कॉफ एटिकेट्स, खांसने छींकने का एक प्रॉपर तरीका जो है वो समझना और उसको फॉलो करना.
President of the Public Health Foundation of India, Dr. K. Srinath Reddy said India is in a much better position as compared to the rest of the world as far as the COVID-19 cases are concerned, and the measures taken are yielding results.
Social distancing is a very effective measure for preventing the transmission of the virus from an infected person to a non-infected person. So we must maintain a distance of at least 2 meters between ourselves and another person so that we can prevent this virus from traveling between two people. We must also ensure that this happens both outside in the market but also in offices where we have to work together with other people.
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has said that the government is fully committed to take care of migrant workers stuck in the national capital. Mr. Kejriwal said the state government is arranging for special Shramik trains to ferry the workers to their homes. The Delhi government said the workers have to be mandatorily put up in relief centres, while the arrangements are made to transport them through special Shramik trains, services or in the state-organised buses. Air India today clarified that its flight bookings are currently closed. It said flight bookings will resume only after directions of the government. The airline said an internal mail is being circulated in the media which is misunderstood and misrepresented. Airline has advised passengers to follow Air India Twitter handle regarding resumption of flight operations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for forming his fifth government in Israel. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said he looks forward to continue working closely with Mr. Netanyahu's government to further strengthen India-Israel strategic partnership.
The government has rejected the claim made in a video of an overcrowded train circulating on social media with a message saying it is a Shramik special train carrying migrants from Mumbai to West Bengal. In a tweet, the Press Information Bureau said the claim is false. It clarified that it is an old video of an overcrowded train in Bangladesh from the year 2018. The cyclonic storm Amphan over Bay of Bengal has intensified into a severe cyclonic storm. In view of the cyclone, 4 districts of Odisha have been put on high alert. Our correspondent has filed this report.
In a press briefing, Special Relief Commissioner of Odisha, Pradeep Kumar Jaina, discussed the state's preparedness regarding the impending cyclone, which is likely to affect Odisha's coast. The collectors of 4 districts, Bhadrak, Baleshwar, Jagatsinghpur and Kendrapada, have been asked to stay alert and take all necessary preventive measures. Additionally, a warning has also been issued to Nayagarh, Khurdha, Puri, Dhenkanal, Mayurbhanj, Gajapati, Ganjam and Jajpur districts. According to IMD, these districts are likely to experience a light to moderate rainfall with heavy falls at isolated places from May 18 to May 20. During this time, the fishermen in Odisha have been advised to not to venture into deep sea. Itishri Singh Rathod, AIR News, Cuttack.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. Delhi is likely to witness partly cloudy sky with a possibility of thunderstorm. In the national capital, the minimum temperature will be 25 degrees Celsius, while the maximum temperature is expected to be 41 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will experience generally cloudy weather in the evening. Down south, Chennai will see a generally cloudy sky with light rain or drizzle. In the east, Kolkata will witness partly cloudy sky with the possibility of moderate rain. On to north, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature will be 22 degrees Celsius in Jammu. Srinagar is likely to be partly cloudy with possibility of rain or thunderstorm. Similar weather is expected to prevail in Gilgit. The temperature will hover between 13 and 28 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, the sky will be clear during the day with possibility of becoming partly cloudy by the evening.
And now, before we end, the headlines once again. Nationwide lockdown extended till 31st of May. Home Ministry issues fresh guidelines to contain the spread of COVID-19. Air and metro rail services to remain suspended. Interstate movement of vehicles allowed on mutual consent basis by the states. All educational institutions, religious places, shopping malls, hotels and cinema halls to remain closed. Red, green and orange zones to be decided by respective states and union territories. only essential activities allowed in containment zones. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces fifth and final tranche of Atmanirbhar Bharat package, outlines reforms in 7 areas. COVID-19 recovery rate improves to 37.5%, doubling time of cases slows down to 13.6 in the last 3 days. Cyclonic storm Amphan over Bay of Bengal intensifies into severe cyclonic storm. 4 districts of Odisha put on high alert. And with that, we end the evening news.